If you were looking at one of these two models from ENGWE, stick around for a few minutes and maybe I can help you make a decision that's better for you. Now, both of these e-bikes run about the same price, so only about $100 difference depending, but at the time of this video, that's the pricing that I found if you were to look on Amazon or even ENGWE's website. Okay, so I'm going to try to run you through this real quick, and the bikes we're looking at is ENGWE's EP-2 Pro. Now this bike came out almost about a year ago now, maybe a little more. There's very similar models that look like this, and this runs $800 to $900. Now this is ENGWE's new bike, and there are also other similar models like this. This is the L20 version 2.0, so there are upgrades to this bike versus the last one. And so one of the differences is about $100 between the two. And so then we're also going to look at some of the obvious things like the tires. Now they both share a 20-inch tire, but the big difference is that when you come over to the L20, this is a 3-inch tire. One of the reasons this actually might be better is because a 3-inch tire is not only lighter, but it's going to accelerate quicker and you're going to get better braking, again, due to the weight. So you may get a little bit better off-road performance with this as far as a cushy ride, but honestly, 3-inch wide tires, just like little 2.5-inch wide tires you see on a mountain bike, provide plenty of traction. So this is one thing you may want to look into with this bike is, again, being a little bit lighter, better acceleration. Now when it comes to the motors of both of these bikes, they both share a 750 watt motor, but one of the bigger differences is that you may not know is that that's 750 watts, but only 50 Newton meters of torque. This one is 750 watts and 75 Newton meters of torque. And again, with the smaller and lighter tire, it's going to accelerate quicker and provides more torque. So this is actually going to increase your range as well. Versus this older bike will have to push more weight because of the larger tires. And again, having less torque, that's going to take more energy to push you. So it's going to end up taking more of your battery capacity, shortening your range. Now, of course, rider weight will play a difference depending on, either one of these bikes, because that's always going to be one of the contributors as far as your range is the weight of the rider and also the conditions as far as temperature. And if there is hills, rough terrain, and more, that's going to be another contributor as well. Now again, going back to the motor, we are also now looking at a different battery as well. The new ENGWE 2.0 comes with a 52 volt battery. Now this may not seem like much, but by the time you add the 52 volt battery, the 750 watt motor with 75 Newton meters of torque, and the 3-inch wide tires with this bike being slightly lighter, it's going to accelerate quicker again and have better range. And with a 52 volt battery, you get more torque out of that. And so both of these share a 13 amp hour battery, but this one is locked in the frame and honestly is a little bit hard to get to. It's not terrible, but this with its little lift up seat, this is much easier to just lift the seat up. You just simply take out the battery, and then if you want, this will make it a little bit lighter if you want to load this, like say on the back of an RV, or maybe if you are putting it inside of a small minivan or a small SUV as well. Now, one minor difference you are going to see is that this seat post actually will drop just slightly lower, but with the new L20 2.0, you get a suspension seat. And this is honestly pretty nice because it does add a cushier ride, but you do get a little bit more height at the very bottom position because of that suspension seat. So this bike here might be just a little bit better for shorter riders. They both share a front suspension, so there's not really a whole lot of difference there, but if you're not much of an off-road person, that may not make much of a difference anyway. Now when it comes to brakes, they both share a cable brake, but there is one big difference. And one of the biggest differences is going to be the rotor size. If you notice, this is a 160 millimeter rotor. Versus when we come over to the L20 2.0, these have 180 millimeter rotors. So again, you have a bike that has more torque, lighter tires, and smaller, and all of this contributes to better performance. So a larger rotor is going to stop you better. This is kind of like the same thing you would see on a motorcycle or a car. A nice big rotor stops you better, the brakes stay cooler, and you get overall better performance. Now when it does come to the gear set, they both share a 7-speed Shimano, utilizing a Tourney derailleur, and overall gearing pretty much the same. Now for me, one of the things I do like about the EP-2 Pro though, I do like the wheels better on this bike because you do have the solid 6-spoke rims versus you do have just kind of the normal spoke tire that is on here, or at least wheel as I should say. So I mean, as far as looks go, I kind of like those wheels better than the traditional spoked wheels. Now obviously there are a couple obvious things like having a dual basket. So if you wanted to put extra gear on this one, you have a front basket and a rear basket versus the EP-2 Pro only has one rear basket if you wanted to carry some gear with you. If you're wondering about top speeds on these bikes, both of them will do 28 miles an hour and they both have a range. This one actually has a slightly longer range of 80 miles versus this one is approximately 70, and that is on pedal assist number 1. So you have to pedal to get that, but your range will greatly differ depending again on rider weight and the terrain. If you're around a lot of hills, obviously that's going to take a lot of your range away. Now there are a few other differences like the displays. This one here is relatively the same as the new one, but the new version 2.0 does come with a color screen which actually seems a little bit easier to see in bright daylight conditions. They both share the same 5-function button kind of configuration that is on your handlebars to work you through all of the settings that are on the display. And when it comes to handle grips as well, and also the twist throttle, these are all the same between both of these bikes. Now obviously one of the bigger differences is going to be the frame of these two bikes. Not only does this allow maybe if you're a little bit shorter or if you're a little bit older with mobility problems, the low frame on the ENGWE L20 2.0 gives you a lot more options to get on easier. The EP-20 Pro takes a little bit more work to get up and over this frame. Since you do have to swing your leg over it, this may not be the best for shorter riders, or again if you have mobility problems, this might not be the best one to have to swing your leg up and over. The L20 also folds up in a little bit tighter configuration than EP-2 Pro does. This one here, again being a little bit lighter, it's also easier to manage and handle. So being that it is compact, they both fold up relatively the same, but folding this one is actually quite a bit easier. Now when it comes to these two bikes, I actually like the L20 2.0 version better, again because it is lighter and the smaller wheels and tires does give it more torque, it gives it more acceleration. So I've found those features to be more important to me versus the EP-2 Pro, which maybe seems like it has a little bit more of a top speed, but honestly, because the only way you can really get to that higher top speed is if you unlock it. Plus, when you start going over 28 miles an hour, well, then you have to deal with the classification of your bike. You might start running into problems as far as you going too fast. They're going to say that you're going to need a license and more. You're going to have all the lights and stuff. They'll consider it a moped. So that's one of the reasons you see a lot of the bikes are all 28 miles an hour, so you don't have to deal with some of those issues that are starting to come up with e-bikes being kind of outlawed and more. So that's one of the small problems. Now overall for me, I do like the ENGWE 2.0 better. I think this is just a little bit better bike, plus it's cheaper. So overall, y'all have to let me know what you guys think about the two. Now I will leave links down in the description and comment section of these two bikes, plus a couple others if you want to check those out. And I hope this video helped you out, and I hope to see you in the next one.